Hey everybody, this is Matthew from Nerd News Today, and on this episode, we're taking a look at another resin bust courtesy of our friends over at Diamond Select. And today, this one is making me feel a bit green, because today we're talking about the Green Goblin. This is a 1/7 scale resin mini bust of the Green Goblin, and this thing looks so demented and so deranged. That's going to be the word of the day when it comes to this piece here, because man, does this thing look really frightening, really creepy. This is kind of perfect for when we talk about a Green Goblin, right? So I can't wait to get this guy out of the packaging, but first let's talk about what this box looks like. And like all of the resin pieces we tend to get with Diamond Select statues, it's usually just a plain old black box with a photo of the statue on it, and some logos slapped onto it as well. So there's the Marvel logo. We've got, of course, the great big image you just saw of the Green Goblin, a little sneak preview of what we're going to see in a few moments. And there's a simple Green Goblin logo, and that's really it. I mean, there is a little very slight purple bar you can see going underneath the logo, but it's, it's pretty dark. It's a pretty dark shade of purple, so it's a little hard to spot. But otherwise, most resin pieces from Diamond Select, they don't really have a lot of design elements on them. The PVC statues will, but these tend not to as much. Although from the side, it's a little bit of a different story, because we have, again, that nice looking purple here. And I kind of wish this purple was what we saw on the front of the packaging, because that really pops and it looks great next to how this is here. Like, this is way more striking to me than what the front of the box looks like. So that's one side. And unlike PVC statues, there are no windows in these resin boxes, because they want to keep your statue nice and safe. So we just have images of the statue kind of turned a little bit here and there, so you can see it from a few different angles. And again, this looks really cool the way this design is here. I really hope that maybe we can see more kind of like stuff like this in the future from them, but typically we're just going to get the same old black stuff we normally get in all these statues. And in case you're curious, by the way, top of the box, no sunroof, just Green Goblin logo once again. Enormous though this time around. And the back of the box here is, again, just a lot more black. Same image of what you saw of Goblin on the front of the packaging. But what's different here is this time around we have a bio about our Green Goblin here, and a pretty good lengthy bio about this character. So in case you didn't know much about him, this should get you up to speed. It's got everything you need to know about who he is, what his motives are, and what he's going to do. Right below that, we have some more information about the piece here, which includes letting us know and confirming that this is in fact a 1/7 scale piece, and it's limited to only 3,000 statues out there in the wild. And most importantly, it tells us who made this piece, and this was designed by Nelson X Asensio and sculpted by Juan Pitlook. So that's all well and done. That's really all we need to do with this packaging here, so let's go ahead, take our Green Goblin out of the box, and get a closer look at him from all angles. And here's our Green Goblin out of the packaging now. This thing is really freaky to look at, and the more I stare at it, the less I want to, but that's kind of a good thing, right, in this case? So let's go ahead and give you guys a quick rotation so you can see this from all angles, as promised. And I'll give you guys my initial thoughts, which are, yes, this is a very, really kind of creepy, scary looking version of the Green Goblin here. This isn't like your classic Bashima or Ramita version of Goblin. This is kind of a more realistic take on the character. So we're seeing a lot more defined facial features, and they're less comic booky in a lot of ways too. And it's kind of taking this character we're so used to seeing on the 2D page and really adding a lot of life to it. And with it, though, that does mean it's a little bit more realistic. So you got to kind of wonder, is this a mask? Is this just his face now? It begs many questions to be answered, and it's kind of up to you to fill in the blanks yourself and how you prefer to have this statue here. But for my money, and for what I think about this thing looks so cool, so creepy. It's, man, it is a thing to look at. So with that said, let's go ahead and take a close look at that face. Although before we get into that, I realize there actually is one detail I probably should not forget this early on in the video, and that's because currently it looks like he's just kind of waiting for someone to put a tray there so you can serve some dinner to somebody, but no, we're actually missing an important piece of the statue, and that would be this right here. This is his pumpkin bomb, and it is packaged separately with a little magnet here to keep it from breaking when it's being shipped and moved around. And just to make sure you guys get a nice good look at all the detail here, this is a really excellent looking pumpkin bomb here. It looks more like an actual pumpkin, not anything mechanized. It feels very organic, but it still has all the cool flamey stuff happening here. So, with all of the Diamond Select resin and oftentimes the PVC pieces, there's always like this kind of like translucent effect of some kind. So that's what we're getting here too. You guys can see all the cool looking smoke and everything here. This thing is about ready to explode, so I think we need to put it in the Goblin's hand and make it be his problem instead of ours. And since it is magnetic here, you guys can see the magnet right there. All you have to do is just get it near there, and it will automatically just go right into the proper place it's supposed to be. So that's how it's going to look once it's sitting in the Goblin's hand. And you can't deny how awesome looking that is, right? But let's get back to this sinister looking Goblin here, because now he just looks even more nefarious with that thing in his hands. So yeah, this is very lifelike. You know, it makes me start thinking about the Spider-Man Broadway show. If you guys ever remember hearing about that, maybe you were one of the lucky few who got to see that craziness. But yeah, I feel like had they done this with the Green Goblin, maybe it would have lasted a little bit longer. I mean, well, there's a lot of things they could have done differently about that show, but yeah, this is a great looking take on him because you really can't tell where the mask begins and his face ends, and that's kind of fun about this, in that it opens up some interesting avenues of storytelling with this. I mean, you can see just the amount of detail in his eyes, the wrinkles that are there as well, the crow's feet, the way he's grinning. It's almost kind of like he's a Joker version of the Green Goblin. But to be fair, he kind of is, like, I think the closest thing Marvel would have to the Joker, coming off the top of my head there. I can't really think of anybody else who might be like, you know, like that kind of a character who just sows chaos that much and is all about the disruption of things. And this definitely feels that way. So if it's a little bit Joker inspired, and maybe it is because, again, those colors there, you know, hey, that's a good thing. I'll take it. But yeah, exceptional details here. We'll show you guys the ears as well. Look how pointy those things are. What's kind of fun too is his hat here, which you're seeing. It kind of mimics the flames that we're seeing come out of that pumpkin bomb. So you guys can see what I mean here. They share sort of similar shapes to them, which is a lot of fun. It's a cool little artistic thing there. So yeah, this goblin is just so creepy looking. Man, I'm going to be excited not to have to look at this thing again for a while, because this thing is just going to be pure nightmare fuel. Let's take a closer look at the rest of what this piece has to offer here. And this being a bust, we basically only have to really worry about from the neck down to the waist. So not a ton of real estate to talk about, but that's fine by me. So what we do have to deal with here is a pretty buff looking goblin, but not like, you know, enormous, ginormous like Colossus, but we do have a pretty good body structure here. What's cool is we have all these sort of lines you could see that are folds in the clothing, and they look very realistic. They're all bunched over here by his waist because he's kind of bending down a little bit, which you can see that. Not bending down all the way, but he's, you know, he's poised for some battle. He's holding this kind of heavy looking pumpkin bomb. So he is definitely engaging those core muscles a bit there. We can also see how buff he is. Again, he's not like Colossus size, but he's still pretty strong looking. I mean, look at those arms. He has not missed bicep day or shoulder day. Look at the size of those things. The size of those traps too. He actually has pretty huge traps if you want to get there. I mean, he's not quite Goldberg level of WCW there, but pretty solid. But yeah, I really am actually digging the folds in the clothing here, because that kind of adds a nice layer of interest in the piece here. Because otherwise, it's a lot of smoothness to a character like this. I mean, his hat is smooth, his skin is smooth, this outfit, it's just basically spandex, right? So when you start adding more folds in the clothing, that helps add a lot of dimension to the piece and more realism. And likewise, we have these huge muscles here, but they're also covered in that classic Goblin chainmail look that we've seen. You know, it's almost like Captain America's fish scale armor. So that's kind of what we have going on here, is a similar kind of thing there, which is very visually exciting to look at, and texturally too, it feels great to touch, and it does so much when it's like lit up too. I mean, you guys can get a little bit of seeing that, what it does here and how it reflects with the lighting, but likewise, again, the folds in the clothing add a lot of dimension to it, because otherwise, you know, if we are going with this sort of classic comic book style piece, it can get pretty flat and static very quickly, but thanks to the way that they are doing this, it keeps it very, very exciting to look at, very interesting to look at, with a lot of different shapes going on in an otherwise fairly vertical piece. Now, we also have the Goblin's back here. You can see he's got some good-looking back muscles there. This is a Goblin who works out really a lot, you know. I guess he's got a lot of spare time, right? When you're rich, you can do whatever you want. We also have this satchel here, which is full of some more stuff. This is not removable, but we've got this great-looking pouch, which has more Goblin weaponry hiding inside there, one of which is currently being held in his hand. They're not actually Goblin bombs. In this case, it's more like Goblin batarangs, I guess, but they look very sharp. Very nice designs here. The more I look at this, the more I'm like, is this Batman and Joker inspired? Because there's so many different elements of it. But again, really wonderful sculpting, very realistic as well. This is such a really cool looking piece, and very nice little detail on this little guy too. Yeah, excellent looking piece there. And as we move around, you'll also see we have that belt buckle, which has a lot of leather texture in it here. You know, the satchel and the belt buckle here. Just lots of different texture going on in this piece, which adds so much life to this very disturbing looking grimace here. Yikes. The more I look at this, the more I'm just like, no thank you. But if you're a Spidey fan, oh, you're probably eating this thing up right now. And speaking of, we'll get you another closer shot of that pumpkin bomb since we're already over here, because I can't get over how cool that looks. Like, yeah, that's so awesome looking. Now, besides all this freakiness here, let's go ahead and jump down to the base for a moment. Normally the bases in these busts, they don't tend to be like, you know, a lot to talk about. They don't really give me much to talk about, but in this case, it's kind of meant to resemble his glider. And we have these like wings around it, which you can see on both of the sides here. So this is very much meant to resemble a Goblin glider. And that is exciting to me because it's not just like a hockey puck like you'd see with the Star Wars pieces. For example, the Gargoyles pieces we looked at on this channel have had like a sort of very simple Art Deco motif here. But this very unique bust base, really, it adds so much storytelling to the piece and tells you a lot about who the Goblin is in a very cool, simple way. And really just, again, excellently done here. Really well designed all around. Now, on the bottom of the piece is where you'll find your limited edition number. In my case, I have an artist proof, so I have no number on it to say. But this is where you're going to find that information here. And you also get a certificate of authenticity with the exact same info that we just spoke about already. So that's pretty much our look at this very creepy Goblin. Let me give you guys my final thoughts and let you know if it's worth purchasing. Overall, if you're a Spidey fan, you gotta have his arch nemesis. And this Green Goblin, personally, it's not necessarily my favorite version of him as far as the look goes. The statue itself, though, is a pure knockout. For me, I kind of want something a little more comic booky, I think, with a character like the Green Goblin. And maybe that's just because that's how I've read him for so many years. But even in his most recent run with Spider-Man, that I think Ed McGuinness was drawing a lot of, I thought that look is really great to me. I think that's kind of like my more iconic version of the Goblin as opposed to this very realistic version of him here. I don't gripe it at all, though. I still think it's an excellently done piece. I mean, you think about this thing here. It's just like a super duper realistic version of the Goblin. And that alone is just so frightening, so creepy, that I think that's really cool. Because to be honest, a lot of their stuff is typically in the size and the scale. It is meant to be more photorealistic and less comic book based. So if that's your thing, I think you're going to definitely enjoy it here. And for what it is a great piece. For me, I prefer the comic book cartoony style. I don't think they've done a animated series version of the Goblin yet. Actually, this kind of reminded me of that. So I'm not sure what's going on with that line. I haven't heard any news about that line in a while. But, I would say for something that's like small, solid, sturdy, and relatively affordable for a resin piece, I think you can't go wrong with this resin bust here of the Green Goblin. Now, speaking of, if you want to pick them up for yourself, go ahead and check out my affiliate links in the description of this video below. If you click on any of those links, it helps support this YouTube channel at no extra cost to you. And hey, don't forget to let me know what you think about this statue in the comments below. So that is our look at this Green Goblin piece here from Diamond Select, a 1/7 scale resin bust, which I think is really cool. And if you're a Spidey fan, you're going to definitely want to have this as part of your collection. So until next time, I'm Matthew. This has been Nerd News Today. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys here next time.